The elevator smelled like burnt coffee and floor wax, and I was the only one in it at 11:47 on a Tuesday night. I'd been debugging a payment gateway error since 6 that morning, and my eyes were so dry I could barely keep them open. My husband had been stationed on an oil platform off the coast of Norway for the past 7 years. 7 years of satellite calls that cut out mid-sentence. 7 years of wiring money to a foreign account for equipment fees his company supposedly didn't cover. 7 years of sleeping alone in our apartment in Jersey City and telling myself it was temporary. The elevator stopped on the 9th floor. A woman stepped in. Short hair, glasses, a lanyard from Beridian Engineering, my husband's old firm before he transferred overseas. "Oh my God," she said. "You're Sully's wife, right?" Sullivan Keene. My husband. Everyone called him Sully. "I'm Tamara," she said. "Tamara Voss. We worked on the same floor before he left." Right. I didn't remember her. You working late too?" "Conference call with the Singapore office." She laughed. "Listen, how's Sully doing? I saw on LinkedIn he's been back in New York for a while now. Is he liking it?" The elevator kept descending. The number above the door ticked from 7 to 6. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" "Sully. He's been back, what, 4 years? 5? I ran into him at a restaurant in Tribeca, maybe 6 months ago. He was with some woman. I assumed it was you, but she was blonde. I am not blonde." The elevator reached the lobby. The doors opened. Neither of us moved. "You didn't know," Tamara said. Her face went white. "When exactly did you see him?" "Around Christmas. I can check my phone. I actually took a selfie outside that restaurant. He's in the background." She scrolled through her camera roll with shaking fingers. There he was. Sullivan Keene, my husband of 9 years, walking out of a Tribeca bistro with his arm around a woman I'd never seen. He was wearing the navy peacoat I'd shipped to Norway for his birthday. The timestamp said December 22nd. On December 22nd, he told me the platform was on lockdown due to a storm and all communications would be down for 10 days. "Thank you," I said. My voice sounded like it was coming from somewhere else. "Could you text me that photo?" Tamara did, and then she stood in the lobby looking like she wanted to disappear. I told her it was fine, that I appreciated her honesty, and I walked to my car. I sat in the driver's seat for 11 minutes. I know because I watched the clock. Then I started making calls. The first was to a private investigator named Betrayal Hobbs. I'd found his number online months ago for a completely unrelated reason, a background check on a contractor at work. But I'd saved his contact. I told him what I needed. Everything about my husband's life for the past 5 years. His real address, his real job, who the woman was. I sent him Tamara's photo. The second call was to my older sister, Rochelle. She picked up on the first ring even though it was past midnight. "Something happened," I said. "Sully's been back in the country for years. He's been living here, with someone else." Silence. "Then, I'm coming over." "No, I'm coming to you." I drove to Rochelle's apartment in Astoria. She had tea waiting and a look on her face that told me she wasn't entirely surprised. "I always thought something was off," she said quietly. "The way his calls were always so short. The way he never let you visit. He said the company didn't allow family on the platform. And you believed that for 7 years?" It stung because she was right. I had believed it. I had believed every word because I loved him and because doubting him felt like a betrayal of everything we'd built. I didn't sleep that night. By 6 in the morning, I had logged into our joint bank account and discovered something that turned my stomach. For the past 4 years, Sully had been slowly moving money, 200 here, 500 there, into an account I'd never seen. The supplementary credit card I'd given him, the one he said was for emergency expenses on the platform, showed regular charges at restaurants, a gym membership, a subscription to a wine delivery service, all in Manhattan. By noon, Betrayal Hobbs had his first report. The woman's name was Kendra Alston, 29, a yoga instructor. She and Sullivan Keene had been co-tenants of a 2-bedroom apartment in the West Village for 4 years. 4 years. The entire time I'd been sending care packages to a P.O. box in Stavanger, Norway. He'd been living 12 miles from our apartment. I sat on Rochelle's couch and read the report 3 times. 4 years of shared lease agreements. 4 years of utility bills with both their names. There were photos Betrayal had pulled from Kendra's public Instagram. Sully at a farmer's market. Sully at a rooftop bar. Sully holding a golden retriever puppy with the caption, "Our new baby, Maple." They had a dog together. "What are you going to do?" Rochelle asked. "I'm going to find out everything. Then I'm going to end it." Over the next 48 hours, I moved fast. I didn't wait. I couldn't afford to. I contacted a divorce attorney named Marion Chu, who came highly recommended by Rochelle's colleague. I gathered bank statements, screenshots of every fake Norway photo Sully had sent me, the tracking numbers from care packages that had actually been forwarded from a mail service in Brooklyn. I found the fake location pins he'd been sending during our video calls. "There are apps that do that," Marion told me. "Spoof your GPS to anywhere in the world." He'd been calling me from Manhattan with a Norwegian GPS tag. I also discovered something worse. 18 months ago, Sully had taken out a loan for $40,000. The collateral was our apartment, the one in Jersey City. The one in my name, the one my grandmother had helped me buy before we were even married. He'd forged my signature. "That's fraud," Marion said flatly. "That changes everything." On the third night, I was at Rochelle's kitchen table organizing documents when my phone rang. It was Sully, his weekly call, right on schedule. Wednesday at 9, like clockwork. I stared at the screen. Rochelle looked at me. I answered. "Hey, babe," he said. His voice had that familiar warmth, that easy confidence. In the background, I could hear what was supposed to be wind and machinery, the sounds of an oil platform. I now knew it was a sound effects app. Daryl had found the exact one on Sully's phone records, Industrial Ambience Pro. $4.99 on the App Store. "Hey," I said. "How's the weather out there?" "Brutal. Storm's been hammering us all week. Might lose satellite again soon. That's too bad. How's work?" "You sound tired." "Long week." I paused. "Sully, can I ask you something? Anything. How's Maple?" The silence lasted 4 seconds. I counted. "What?" "Your golden retriever, Maple. The one you got with Kendra." He hung up. I blocked his number, changed the locks on the apartment the next morning, and filed for divorce that afternoon. Marion Chu filed an emergency motion to freeze our joint assets and reported the forged loan documents to the bank. Within 24 hours, the bank had opened a fraud investigation. Then the real chaos started. Sully showed up at the Jersey City apartment at 10 at night, banging on the door. I wasn't there. I'd been staying at Rochelle's, but my neighbor called me. She said he looked wild, desperate, nothing like the calm, polished man she'd seen coming and going years ago. He left after 20 minutes when my neighbor threatened to call the police. The next morning, I got an email from a lawyer I'd never heard of, representing Sullivan Keene. The email said my husband was willing to discuss a reasonable settlement, but that I needed to drop the fraud complaint and sign a non-disclosure agreement. In exchange, he'd agree to an uncontested divorce. I forwarded it to Marion. "He's scared," she said. "The fraud charge could mean prison time. He's trying to make this go away quietly." "Good," I said. "Let him be scared." But Sully wasn't done. Over the following week, he launched what I can only describe as a campaign. He called my parents in Connecticut and told them I was having a mental breakdown, that I'd become paranoid and delusional, that he was worried about my safety. My father, who is 71 and has a heart condition, called me in tears asking if I was okay. My mother drove to Rochelle's apartment at 7 in the morning, convinced I needed to be hospitalized. It took me 2 hours to explain everything. I showed them the PI's report, the bank records, the photos from Kendra's Instagram. My mother sat at the kitchen table and didn't speak for a long time. My father's hand shook as he looked at the forged loan documents. "I'll kill him," my father said. "No," I said. "The law will handle him." Sully also tried to reach Rochelle, calling her 14 times in one day. She didn't answer. He sent flowers to her office with a card that said, "Please help me talk to her. I can explain everything." Rochelle threw them in the trash and took a photo for the harassment file. Then he went to my workplace. He showed up at the front desk of my company and told the receptionist he was my husband and there was a family emergency. My manager called me. I told her the truth, that I was in the middle of a divorce and my estranged husband was stalking me. She had security escort him out and flagged his photo at the front desk. Through all of this, I kept working. I kept eating. I kept breathing. I wasn't going to let him collapse my life the way he'd hollowed out our marriage. 2 weeks after I'd filed, Daryl sent me an update that stopped me cold. Kendra Alston was pregnant, 5 months along. I sat with that information for a while. I thought about this woman, 29, a yoga instructor, carrying the child of a man she probably thought was single. Did she know about me? Had he lied to her too? Part of me wanted to hate her, but a larger part of me understood that she might be just as deceived as I was. I asked Daryl to find out what Kendra knew. It took him 3 days. The answer was complicated. Kendra knew Sully had been previously married, but believed the divorce had been finalized years ago. He told her I was an ex-wife who lived in another state. She had no idea I existed as his current legal spouse. When Marion filed the asset freeze, the court documents became semi-public. Kendra found out. According to Daryl, she'd locked Sully out of their apartment and called her parents in Philadelphia. I felt something unexpected, relief, not for me, for her. At least now she knew the truth. The legal process moved faster than I expected. Marion was relentless. The forged loan was the nail in the coffin. The bank's fraud department confirmed Sullivan had used a forged power of attorney to take the loan against my property. Combined with the evidence of his double life, the fake GPS locations, the sound effects app, the years of deliberate deception, the judge granted me everything. The apartment, the full balance of our joint accounts, an order barring Sully from coming within 500 feet of me, my workplace, or my parents' home. Sully's lawyer tried one last move, claiming that I had abandoned the marriage by focusing on my career and neglecting my husband's emotional needs, driving him to seek companionship elsewhere. The judge dismissed it in under 10 minutes. On the day the divorce was finalized, 3 months after that elevator ride with Tamara, I walked out of the courthouse into bright October sunlight. Rochelle was waiting on the steps with 2 cups of coffee. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Like I lost 30 pounds, I said. She laughed. "You kind of did. 185 pounds of dead weight named Sullivan Keene." We sat on a bench across from the courthouse and drank our coffee. The trees were turning gold and red. People walked by with their lives, their problems, their secrets. I watched a couple holding hands and felt nothing. No bitterness, no envy. Just a quiet kind of peace. "What happens to him now?" Rochelle asked. "The fraud case is still pending. His lawyer's trying to negotiate a plea deal. He might get probation, might get jail time. I don't really care anymore." "And the girl?" "Kendra? She's due in December. She moved back to Philadelphia to be near her parents." I sipped my coffee. "I hope she's okay. I hope she's okay. I hope the baby's healthy." Rochelle looked at me sideways. "You're a better person than I am." "No, I'm just tired of carrying his mess." That weekend, I did something I'd been putting off for 7 years. I booked a solo trip. Not to Norway. I never wanted to hear about Norway again. But to the Outer Banks in North Carolina. A quiet rental house on the beach, just me and the ocean for 10 days. I drove down on a Friday morning. The highway was empty. The radio played old songs I hadn't heard in years. Somewhere around the Delaware Memorial Bridge, I started crying. Not the angry, tight-jawed crying I'd done in Rochelle's apartment. This was the other kind. The kind that comes when something enormous finally lets go inside you. I pulled over at a rest stop and cried until I was empty. Then I washed my face in the bathroom, bought a terrible gas station sandwich, and kept driving. The rental house was small and sun-bleached, with a porch that looked directly onto the water. The owner, a retired teacher named Glynis, met me at the door with a set of keys and a casserole dish. "I always make something for solo guests," she said. "The first night alone in a new place can be lonely." I almost cried again. "Thank you. You here to think or to forget?" "Both, I think." "Well, the ocean's good for that. It doesn't judge." I spent 10 days in that house. I watched the beach at dawn. I read books I'd been meaning to read for years. I cooked simple meals, pasta, grilled fish, salads with tomatoes from a farm stand down the road. One evening, I sat on the porch with a glass of wine and watched a thunderstorm roll in over the ocean. The lightning turned the sky white, and the thunder shook the windows, and I felt, for the first time, in a very long time, completely alive. On the 6th day, I got a text from Rochelle. "Sully took the plea deal, 2 years probation, full restitution on the loan, and he has to complete a financial fraud awareness program." She added a laughing emoji. "Financial fraud awareness." Like he didn't know what he was doing. I typed back, "Good, it's over," and it was. Not in the dramatic, explosive way I'd imagined during those first terrible nights. It was over the way a fever breaks, gradually, and then all at once, and then you're just lying there feeling weak and clean and new. When I got back to Jersey City, I started redecorating the apartment. I threw out everything that reminded me of Sully. His books, his clothes he'd left behind, the framed photos, the stupid decorative globe he'd bought because it reminded him of his travels. I painted the bedroom a soft blue. I bought new sheets, new towels, new coffee mugs. Small things, but they mattered. Every new object was a choice I'd made for myself. I also started writing. Not professionally, just for myself. A journal at first, then longer pieces about what I'd been through. Rochelle read some of them and said I should start a blog. I told her maybe someday. 3 months later, on a Saturday morning in January, I was at a coffee shop in my neighborhood when my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "This is Kendra. I got your contact from the court documents. I just wanted to say I'm sorry and thank you. You didn't have to leave me out of the legal battle, but you did. My daughter was born last month. She's healthy. I named her Josephine." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I wrote back, "Congratulations on Josephine. I'm glad she's healthy. You don't owe me an apology. We were both lied to. I wish you and your daughter the best." She sent a heart emoji. I put my phone down and looked out the window. Snow was falling softly on the street. A man walked by with a little kid on his shoulders, both of them laughing. The coffee was warm in my hands. I thought about the past year, the elevator, Tamar's face going pale, the photo on her phone, the 48 hours of fury and planning, the courtroom, the beach, the thunderstorm. All of it had led me here, to a quiet Saturday morning, alone but not lonely, free in a way I hadn't been in almost a decade. My phone buzzed again. "Rochelle. Brunch?" "Yes," I typed. "Starving." I finished my coffee, pulled on my coat, and walked out into the snow. The city was bright and cold and full of people living their complicated lives, and I was one of them now, not a woman waiting for someone to come home, but a woman who was already home, right where she was supposed to be.